Здравствуйте, дамы и господа, с вами я, Невернел, вы находитесь на YouTube-канале Доктор Техник. Мы продолжаем проходить игрушечку под названием Crimes and Punishments Sherlock Holmes. И я хочу сказать, что теперь я записываю, так как это, если я прав, обычно делает Куплинов, то есть пишу само видео фрапсом, чтобы ничего не потерялось, ничего не сломалось. А звук записываю отдельно, причем записываю сразу на несколько программ, чтобы его тоже не потерять. В любом случае я хочу одну проверить, пока что буду писать, наверное, на 2. И буду, если будут шумы, их убирать, да. Так что иногда качество звука может быть хуже, чем оно есть по факту. Но я не думаю, что вы все это будете замечать. Так, продолжить. Что у нас тут? Нам надо куда-то там ехать, на место убийства, да, осмотреть. Там же пацаненка еще посадили. Да, еще пацаненка посадили, значит. Значит, нам надо еще съездить не на Бейкер-стрит, а куда там? Скотланд-Ярд, поговорить с Листрейдом, чтобы он отпустил, а чё пацаненка-то сажать, если он не виноват. Мы же доверяем всем этим ребятишкам, они же все молодцы. Как-то очень сильно провисает заставка. Я надеюсь, это не из-за записи дополнительной. Я сейчас пишу, получается, программкой. Там не помню, как она правильно называется. И Audacity. Зачем Audacity пишу? Просто чтобы быть уверенным, что все хорошо будет. В любом случае, я буду еще потом шумы убирать, если буду, конечно, убирать через Audacity. А убийство-то где происходит? Почему он с фонарем входит? Тогда что, не было каких-нибудь маленьких фонариков удобных? Вот оно. Убийство. Как маленький пацан убил бы такого огромного мужика? Это нет. Пожалуйста, джентльмены, отойдите. О, мистер Холмс, это вы? Добрый вечер, констебль. Констебль Мэру, я работал с инспектором Аберлином по делу Джека Потрошителя, мистер Холмс, назад. Но тогда мы не занимались ничем подобным. В этом деле у нас есть убийца, орудие убийства и показания, которые говорят сами за себя. Разумеется, Мэру, но вы знаете, что внешность бывает обманчива. Это он к тому, что не виноват тут пацаненок. Слишком опять все на поверхности. Если так оно есть, то это неправильно. Кто жертвы? Здесь двое, оба застреленные. Тот толстяк Брайан Беркотти, известный бандит, второй Кеннет Батлер, по профессии ювелир. Видите ли? Вы поговорили о показаниях. Вы говорили о показаниях, у вас есть свидетели. Я тоже был здесь, у меня есть свое заявление. И было еще 2 свидетеля, которые показали, что видели убийцу Чалмана. Это мистер Тернер, живущий в квартире наверху, и Полли Поуэлл, цветочница, стоящая на другой стороне улицы. Она работает в такое позднее время. Констебль Мэру, я буду счастлив услышать ваши показания. Стоял с северной стороны Холмс-стрит, там, откуда вы пришли. Но вы бы не увидели эту часть улицы, пока стояли там. Это верно, но я видел, как 2 жертвы медленно вошли на Холмс-стрит, а затем почти ссразу начался фейерверк. Несколько минут спустя Чапман промчался мимо меня прямо на Халм-Мун-стрит. Продолжайте. Я не обратил внимания, но внезапно услышал женский крик, полицейский свисток с другой стороны Халм-Мун-стрит. Я бросился туда и увидел 2 трупа на земле. Когда я достиг Уэтчелл-стрит, мне на глаза попался Лейтон Чапман, пойманный 2 констеблями. Халм-Мун. Давайте повторять это слово, сволочь. Констебль мэру, что-нибудь еще привлекло ваше внимание, когда вы бежали по Халфмун-стрит? Ничего, кроме крысы. Я потратил время, чтобы осветить каждый угол лампой. Что за фейерверки? По какому поводу устроили фейерверк, констебль? Ну, сегодня же день рождения королевы Виктории, мистер Холмс. О, да, потерял все дням. Сейчас же май. Ну, конечно. Июль сейчас. Холмс. Вы слышали выстрелы? Я не слышал выстрелов. Все небо было в фейерверках, стоял такой грохот, что заглушал все остальное. А вы посмотрели на окно мистера Тернера, когда оказались на Халфмун-стрит? Да, я видел, что окно открыто, но никого за ним не было. Там не горел свет. Я считаю... Ваши показания очень ценны. Да ты всем так скажешь. Вот. Давай жертвы осмотрим пока что. Пока все равно далеко не ушли. Ну вот. Предмет деревяшка. Это деревяшка. Кусочек дерева, застрявший между плитами, нужно его рассмотреть. Трость, сигарета, не знаю. То, что за... Нет? А что тогда? Это деревяшка отломана недавно. Чего? Как ты это понял? Это ж вроде непонятно. Пуля попала ему в голову, и у него не было шансов. Деревяшка. Не сигарета вроде, палки нет никакой. Если бы была, то там еще кусок валялся бы. Ребят, извините, но из-за того, что вследствие того, что я писал новой программой, получилось так, что звук с самим видео шел в рассинхрон, причем настолько адский, что там чуть ли не на 10-15 минут рассинхрон. Сводить это все ужасно трудно. Ну, у меня просто на данный момент нету времени этого делать. Вот. Видео выходит в понедельник, и если вам интересен Шерлок без комментариев, то досмотрите. Либо, ну, я могу просто вам сейчас, конечно, сказать весь смысл, но, наверное, будет интереснее все-таки досмотреть. Будут вопросы по поводу того, почему я сделал именно такие умозаключения, задавайте. Также я остаюсь при мнении о том, что брат его не виноват. Ну, еще я думал, что он ниже ростом, что по факту оказалось не так. Рассинхрон просто ужасный со словами. Ну, вот чуть-чуть я у вас тут встрял на минутку, а дальше можете смотреть спокойно сами. Спасибо за просмотр всем.
Excellent. Might we hear your story? Could you tell us everything that you may have seen or heard?
I was already in bed when the fireworks started. A few moments after, I clearly heard 2 gunshots from outside.
Please continue.
I quickly got up and I grabbed the lamp from my nightstand and I rushed towards the window. I looked down and I saw 2 bodies. And there was a man with a gun who was standing nearby.
Where exactly?
Well, near this body.
Did he notice you?
I don't think so. He rushed towards Whitechapel Street without looking around.
Mr. Turner, did you see anyone else in the street?
No, I saw no one but that man. The murderer. The fellow they caught.
Were the two shots you heard consecutive?
Yes, there was a very short pause between them, and they sounded different somehow. It seemed to me that the second shot was louder than the first.
That is an interesting comment. Mr. Turner, what were your actions after you stepped up to the window?
I was afraid that the man with the gun might return, so I stayed close to the window till I saw the policeman coming in the Half Moon from Whitechapel. Then I walked out to tell them everything I saw.
You have helped us a great deal, Mr. Turner.
I'll do anything to save my brother, Mr. Holmes.
Mrs. Powell?
What do you want?
My name is Sherlock Holmes. I'm assisting the police with their investigation of the crime that took place this evening.
Well, I've already gave my testimony, but very well.
Could you tell us everything that you may have seen or heard?
Yes. I was selling my flowers as usual, and then the fireworks began, in honour of Queen Victoria. I enjoyed those. But then, all of a sudden, a young lad ran out of Half Moon Street and stopped just by me. He had a gun in his hand. He was like a ghost, and all covered in blood. It was dark, but I could see him, because of the flashes from the fireworks.
And then?
I screamed as loud as I could. I knew that a policeman should be on duty in the vicinity. He had no time to escape. 2 constables got him. Then another constable came out from the very same street, and I heard him talking of a horrible murder.
Did you see anyone else leaving Half Moon Street, prior to or at the time of the crime?
No, sir, I did not. Even with all the fireworks, I was very attentive, as I'm always on the lookout for customers.
Mrs. Powell, did you hear the gunshots?
I'm not sure. You know, what with the fireworks?
My thanks to you, Mrs. Powell.
Mr. Holmes, did you see my brother at Scotland Yard?
A fairly long pole with a forked end. A fairly long pole with a forked end. Locked. Locked.
It would be my pleasure to assist you with your investigation, Mr. Holmes.
Mr. Turner, you have stated that you remained close by your window after the crime, is that correct?
Oh, yes, Mr. Holmes. I stayed at my window until the policeman arrived to examine the dead bodies.
That is very interesting, Mr. Turner. Constable Marrow stated that he did not see anyone at the window when he was running through Half Moon Street.
Well, I think Constable Marrow and me, we might have been distracted by the whistles and shouts coming from Whitechapel. We could have missed each other somehow. You understand what I mean? It was a bit of a stressful moment, to tell you the truth, sir.
Allow me to form my own theories, Mr. Turner. Would you mind showing me the view that you had from your window?
Not at all, Mr. Holmes. Please, follow me.
Mr. Turner appears to live very modestly. This fire is dying out. It was last tended to over an hour ago. The papers are almost entirely burned. I am unable to see what's written here. These words are illegible. The papers were thrown into the fire just a short while ago. This kitchen knife is quite cheap. There are pieces of shredded paper scattered over the table. This kitchen knife was used to cut the paper. The books on this shelf are in a mess. It looks as though Mr. Turner was trying to find a perfect match. So, Mr. Turner broke his stick when it became stuck between the cobblestones. He did not mention that. Mr. Turner was roused from his bed by the sound of gunshots.
Anything else you would like to know, Mr. Holmes?
So, that's the view Mr. Turner had when he opened the window. The dead body of Kenneth Butler. Brian Vercotti's contorted corpse. Mr. Turner had a perfect view of the crime scene. He saw the bodies clearly, and Leighton Chapman didn't happen this way. No, it didn't happen this way. So Mr. Turner used a book to hide an object that he found on Kenneth Butler's body. The question is, what did he find? I can see prints from greasy fingers upon the cover of this book. Well now, what a find! A precious jewel concealed inside a book. A bracelet with a unique ram's head design, a distinctive feature of ancient Grecian artifacts, probably. Mr. Turner, how would it be possible for a man of advanced years, such as yourself, to rush from his bed to the window in a matter...
Well, I'm able to move very quickly, despite my age. And when the situation requires it, Mr. Holmes.
I highly doubt that, Mr. Turner. I observe that you suffer a severe limp due to your injured right leg. It would have taken at least 10 seconds for you to approach the window. That means you could have easily missed something or someone in Half Moon Street.
You're right, Mr. Holmes. I could have missed something. But it did seem to me that everything happened so quickly.
And what of everything else that you told us? Mr. Turner, it is vital that we have your complete and...
Mr. Holmes, I do assure you that the other things I said were most sincere.
Mr. Turner, you were not sincere with me. Not then.
But Mr. Holmes...
This, Mr. Turner, does not look like anything that a poor man might possess. It is worth more than...
I can explain.
No, merely correct me if I am wrong. You saw Leighton Chapman through the window, but you also noticed a glittering object on the ground. This, you walked down and took the bracelet from the body of Kenneth Butler, and when that broke your walking stick. It caught fast between the cobbles. Constable Marrow was unable to see you in the window as you were climbing up the stairs on your way back to your flat. Upon returning home...
Mr. Holmes, please don't send me to prison. I didn't do anything. When I chanced upon the bracelet, I saw it as an opportunity to make a little money. I was desperate.
You made a mistake by lying to me. But you are not a criminal. I believe that.
It would be my pleasure to assist you with your investigation.
Mr. Holmes, whatever brings you here so late at night?
I'm interested in the case of young Leighton Chapman. He was arrested earlier this evening and accused of a double murder.
I beg your pardon? That case is quite clear to the police. Or are there any new facts that we don't know about?
Who knows, Inspector?
Look, you are free to investigate, of course, Mr. Holmes. Chapman was arrested with a revolver in his possession, which you can find in the evidence room. The suspect himself is in custody.
Did you find anything else on his person?
A few personal belongings. Nothing particular, Mr. Holmes.
Thank you, Lestrade. These cigarettes are filled with cheap tobacco. Nothing interesting. A cheap watch, bought with his own money, no doubt. So this is the gun that Leighton was holding when he was caught by the police. It is a Webley revolver, a reliable weapon. It seems as though the shells were not removed from the cylinder. Two out of the 6 shells have been fired. There were 2 shots. Please escort this suspect. Good evening, Mr. Chapman.
Who are you? I've got nothing to say. It's all a mistake.
Calm down, Leighton. I have come here to help you. To find out if you truly are innocent, as your younger brother Wiggins has told me.
My brother? You know him? Then that means you're...
Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, blimey. All right, Mr. Holmes. I'll tell you everything.
Good. Tell me your account of what happened.
I left my work, and I hurried up to see the fireworks in Whitechapel. I was late, so I saw the first fireworks light up in the sky. I bumped into a constable on a corner before entering Half Moon. Then suddenly, what with all the firework flare, I saw two men. They were both lying flat in the middle of the street. I stopped where I was. I thought about turning back to the police, but as I was thinking of that, I saw a third person. He was leaning over the body that was furthest from me. The second I saw him, he raised his head, and he stared at me. In a flash, I saw his gun, but he made it down.
So you might still have had time to return to the constable.
I panicked. I didn't know what to do. Anyway, I approached the bodies just to see if they were still alive. I saw that one had blood pumping out of his stomach. He was dying. It was horrible. He was holding a gun in his hand, though. I took it, and then I...
Interesting. Pray, continue.
I turned a corner, and I saw the man standing in the middle of the street. He seemed to be in... And then, Mr. Holmes, something strange happened. I told the police and they laughed at what I said, but I swear to you, my words are true. I started running towards him. But then I was blinded by a flash. It was so bright that I hardly saw anything for a good dozen seconds. But I kept running forward. As I arrived in Whitechapel, I heard a woman screaming. Of course, then they found a gun and all that blood. I couldn't see the murderer escaping and all that mess. Perhaps I was still half-blinded.
A thrilling account, my young man. Leighton, are you able to describe the person whom you...
Well, I wasn't able to see his face at all. It was too dark. And he was...
And what about...
Nothing so special. He was wearing a jacket.
I see. Was there anything else?
No. But perhaps... It's strange, but I can't remember the sound of his footsteps as he was running away.
Leighton, I confess I am puzzled. Why should a young lad like you take a gun from the hands of a dead man?
I know. I keep wondering that, but at the time it was like a reflex.
You were willing to risk your life. That was a little foolish.
No, Mr. Holmes. I was just being brave and stupid.
I'm sure that you were, but I believe that you may have recognized one of the victims, Brian Vac... You have a typical tattoo of the Westgate Brotherhood upon your hand. I observed you came to know him from your sharing a past prison sentence.
God.
Would you tell me a little about Brian?
We were convicted for a robbery. Once in prison, both of us joined one of these fraternities.
You were quite young then, I believe.
Yes, Mr. Holmes, we were. We'd only stolen a pound of meat. After we were released and when I...
And Vicotti?
He had a hard time. His sister had died in a Whitechapel dispensary while he was in prison. He had no family anymore. Our paths...
So you lost him?
Yes. And for around 2 years,
We shall see you soon, young man.